evening, Lake Region. I hope all is well. We are excited. We are excited. 4 weeks, I repeat, 4 weeks before election takes place. Election takes place. This is the midterm elections. I repeat, the midterm elections. And we want to make sure that everyone is registered to vote. Everyone is registered to vote, whether you're in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, we want to, or Minnesota, we want to make sure that you are registered to vote. This is our voter education program with the Lake Region Conference of Seventh-day Adventists in conjunction with the Conscience and Justice Council. And we're going to focus on the Lake Region territory, but the same information, I repeat, the same information is available elsewhere. And we just want you to know, if you're in Illinois, that you, I repeat, you will, let me put this up a little bit bigger, in Illinois, there's the day. Election day is the same everywhere you go, November 8th, Tuesday, November 8th. If you have questions, we're going to share some information with you, but if you have questions about election, you're not sure where to go, I want you to call 312. I repeat, 312. If you're in Illinois, we want you to call what? 312 814 312 814 6440, and they will answer any of your questions, any of your election-related questions. I repeat, any of your election-related questions in Illinois at 312 814 6440. If you have any questions with regards to the election, please be sure to call that number. All right. But not just in Illinois. We want you to know, if you're in Indiana, today's the last day to register. But you can register online. I repeat, you can register online in Indiana. And then if you have questions about voting or who to talk to or who to call in Indiana, the state of Indiana Election Commission, 313, I repeat, 313-232-3939, 313-232-3939 for information in Indiana. We want you to know what's going on. But if you're in Michigan, I repeat, if you're in Michigan, you still have time to register to vote. Matter of fact, in Michigan, you can register to vote on election day. I repeat, you can register to vote on election day at 800. If you have questions, call the State of Michigan Election Commission, 292-5973. I want you to call 800-292-5973. Once again, let me take this one off for Indiana, 800. Let me go back up here. Here we go. 800-292-5973 for the State of Michigan Election Commission to have your questions answered. And then we have, after Michigan, we have what? We have Minnesota. And we don't want the churches in Minnesota to think that we forgot about them. And in Minnesota, you call the State of Minnesota Election Commission at 651-215-1440. That's who we want you to call, 651-215-1440. And you can call the State of Minnesota, once again, the State of Minnesota Election Commission, 651-215-1440. That's for Minnesota. And then our last state, I repeat, our last state in Lake Region, is Wisconsin. And there, all you got to do is call 1-866, and it says vote WIS. 1-866-VOTE. I'm gonna put it in there so you can look on your touchtone phone, and this is what you want to call: 1-866-VOTE-WIS. 1-866-VOTE-WIS, and that's where you want to call the State of Wisconsin Election Commission. Once again, if you do not vote, you cannot complain. If you do not vote, you cannot complain. All right, all right, all right. We got this out of the way with regards to election information. Let's bring on our guest that I am so proud of, so happy to have. And of course, I'm a gentleman. We're going to introduce the ladies first, all the way from Berrien Springs by way of Andrews Academy, a distinguished senior in her own right. Brothers and sisters, welcome Christiana Michelle. Christiana, it's nice to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, all right. The young adult coordinator from the Lake Region Conference from the suburbs of Illinois. Her smile will not kill you, it will welcome you. Let's welcome none other than Zakia Jarrett. Zakia, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here.
And our 2022 Pearl Pastor of the Year by way of Berean Seventh-day Adventist Church in South Bend, and also the voice of hope from Michigan City. Not only is he the lead pastors in those churches, but he's also the conference urban ministries director. Can we give it up for Pastor Claval Hunter?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Elder Woods, for allowing me to participate in this critical discussion today.
Last but not least, we always got to get an OG, someone who's been around, has some wit and some wisdom, someone who has served on the city councilor for the city of Indianapolis and the county of Marion, a Pine Forge graduate, and also attended Andrews University, but served our country with distinction during the Vietnam War. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the OG himself, Brother Joe Simpson. Brother Simpson, it's always good to have you in the house.
Thank you I'm glad to be here. You know, Ed, I'm always there. I got your back. I got your back, bro.
I believe it. I believe it. So, ladies and gentlemen, tell me why voting's important and what's at stake from your standpoint in this 2022 mid-year election. Once again, why is voting so important and what's at stake? I'm sorry. My man is here. Hallelujah. Hold on. We got one more guest by way of the Motor City. The firefighter in his own right, the former executive director of the NAACP in Detroit, the largest chapter in the nation, someone who's not afraid to speak truth to power. He served with the Secretary of State and did the external outreach. If you're looking for somebody to stand, you don't have to look any further than our brother, Esther Wheeler. Brother Wheeler, welcome to the show.
Yep, I was saying hallelujah. Also, it took me forever to get here, so please forgive my tardiness, but I'm happy to be a part of this very, very important conversation.
We got our full panel. I'm happy now. We got our full panel. And here's the question. Why is voting important? Because we keep saying it year after year after year. You know, people died for our right to vote and blase, 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 blase. But why is voting important? And then two, what's at stake as relates to this midterm election in 2022, whether it's Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, what's at stake? Christiana, we're going to give you a pass and let you go last, just so you know. And we'll start off with Pastor Claval Hunter.
So let me see what this is.
Thank you. Right now, our democracy is at stake. I'll say that. And when you look at it, in many of our states, we have lawmakers who are making it more difficult for people living in poverty and vulnerable voters. They're making it more difficult for such people to vote. And they're targeting voters of color. They're targeting the elderly. They're targeting students and those who are disabled. And they're even targeting returning citizens to exercise their sacred right to vote. And so it is important. It is important. And I'm gonna challenge people. You got to get out there. You got to vote. We should not take for granted our right to vote. There are issues that are important to you. There are issues that are important to me as a Black man, as a father, as a husband, as a pastor. And so you got to look at those issues in your state. Perhaps it's healthcare or abortion rights, education, jobs, economy, the equality, criminal justice. These things are at stake right now, and so we need to know what our elected officials stand for, and that's why I'm saying these. We got to get out there and vote.
All right, Zakia.
So it's super important to vote. I tell my kids all the time. So I have young adult children, and I tell them all the time, you may not think that an issue is important now, but you're certainly going to probably think that it's important later, when it starts to affect you. You're going to think it's important. And so you should vote. It's super easy in the digital age to get educated about voting. Elder Woods just gave out tons of resources for each state. Super easy to get educated about it and go on out there and vote. Some of the things that are, on the table and that Illinoisans have been talking about for the last few years are high taxes, the crime rate, and then education. You may have heard that there are lots of large corporations, businesses that have moved out of the state of Illinois over the last few years due to the taxes. But families are also moving out of the state due to the taxes. And a lot of the times they're going right outside of the state line. They're not moving very far, just out of Illinois because of the taxes. And then, there is a new law that everybody's also been chattering about. And they don't believe that it's going to positively affect what's already going on with crime, which is another reason that some businesses have cited moving out of the state of Illinois. And then, of course, again, education is just always on the table. And we're still trying to recover from COVID, as well in that area. So,
Joe Simpson.
Well, I would like to start off by saying that need to vote because they think that Blacks, American, don't vote. And our Black votes do matter every time. I mean, Biden, Obama, any of those Democrats that got voted in, even on the Senate side, it is very important that we take voting seriously. I started voting when I was eligible when I turned 18. And my message to the listening audience out there is that please start voting early so you can begin to learn. How do you go in there and vote? What do you got to do? Get the piece of paper, or they can do it up here. They do it on computers now. You can hit the computer and vote, but you got to go in there. And when you do go in there with your mother or your parents or somebody who experienced. They got numbers and they'll help you to vote. But I'm encouraging you, as soon as you can vote and vote often. Every year, don't miss a vote, because just because you're one vote don't mean that you may be the winning vote. We may win an election by one vote. And everybody say, oh, that was my vote. But it is very important. I got 4 daughters, and I'm a dad, and they all registered to vote. One is living in Arizona, and 3 of them are here. And I always and understand who they're voting for. But as people listen to me, I'm always, for me, always wanted to encourage the young generation coming in, because you're the next generation, and you're the generation that can make a difference. And that, like I say, Black votes do count.
Okay, Christiana, it's all up to you.
Okay. I could name many reasons why voting is very applicable to the situation right now, but one of them is that this is the first year that I'm eligible to vote. And so this topic is very
Good for
applicable
you.
to me and all of my peers around me. And our votes equal our voices. And so it's so important to make those voices heard, especially in the demographics that we are in, and to make those places, be heard.
And what's at stake for you as a first-time voter in this election? What are you uh, passionate about, exciting about in terms of raising your voice?
I think it's just very important I think, for all the demographics to be heard, and that includes like the younger generation, which, as you mentioned before, those are the voices that are going to be, prominent in the next few coming years. And so it's very important that people start voting now
Yep.
and even start educating, even if they can't vote now.
Thank you so much. Hester Wheeler.
Yes, Sir Edward, Reverend Doctor, and good evening, everybody. Toxins in the permafrost. Isabel Wilkerson wrote the book Cast, Caste, and she describes how tension, global warming, climate change releases certain toxins from our permafrost. Hatred and violence and racism has always been around, but because of folk like Donald Trump, those toxins have been released again. We have to vote for a couple of very, very obvious reasons. First of all, white folk and racism is coming after our vote. It ought not be hard to convince people that your voting is your power when so many mean-spirited conservatives are coming after the African-American vote specifically. I believe after prayer, voting is our next most significant power. And when they say get back, we say fight back.
All right, all right, all right. Now, we talked about with the voter education program, we really wanted to talk about how do we assess candidates and ballot proposals? How do we assess candidates and ballot proposals? And what we asked was for your various state that you represent is to identify a ballot proposal that you evaluated and why you're voting the way you are, or I shouldn't even say voting, and give a perspective. Once again, our voter education program is that we encourage people to vote. We do not tell you what party to vote for. We do not tell you who to vote for. But the main thing is to encourage you to register, but not only register, but also to vote. And with this all-star panel, they're going to assist us in telling you from their perspective, from a first-time voter perspective, from a veteran's perspective, how they assess candidates and how they assess ballot proposals. And so many times we only vote the front of the ballot, but not the back of the ballot. And we're going to talk about why it's important to vote the back of the ballot, because that's where those ballot proposals or even your millages might come on the back of the ballot. And we want to have a conversation with regards to that so you can understand how your vote impacts your community, So Joe Simpson, we want to start with you. When it comes to candidates, I repeat, when it comes to candidates, how do you evaluate the candidates that you vote for?
I would start off by saying, as soon as you can, today, tomorrow, get a copy of the ballot. They have a ballot out there. Democrats have ballots, Republicans have ballots. Copy of it. Study it. You give you the ballot, which all ballots aren't in the same. Sometimes it's township, sometimes it's cross lines, city, county council, all of them are a little different. But you need to find out what district you're in and get a copy of the ballot. And for you, Christiana, you get it, work on school, get a copy of the ballot, have a day in, and show them this is what we're going to go in there and vote. You and class and that is to study these folks. look at them and find out what they're about. And because there are a lot of people who run for office that don't have a clue. And for you, they just there for the power, and you need to know what they go stand for, what they go. Let's say everybody, if you haven't voted for the first time, or if you haven't, has changed, and a lot of time it's automated. You go up to a screen now. You don't have to wear the most when they go voted the last time. Pastor, did you have a screen when you went? Okay. Well, this is the thing. I'm hoping that for everybody who are listening to this, is that it's so, and my parents used to always say it's so important to vote. And I always wonder why, and then as you get older, Christine, as you ready to go freshman, sophomore, once you get in college and you get the regular age, I mean, Brother Wheeler right there, he can tell you, it was important back at this time. I was born in 1951. I know you behind me a little bit, Brother Wheeler. I'm not going to stretch it. But is that it was so important when we were growing up that our parents made a vote. And it's real important right now that a lot of it's sort of sad that our people don't, they don't take voting seriously. And the reason they don't take it seriously is because they don't think it do anything for them. Well, you have to vote or things happen for you. And so I would encourage everybody, get out, get a copy of the slating, study it, find out who they are. And once you know who they are, make a decision based on what their platform is or what they think they're going to vote, what they're going to do for you. If somebody in there and they said, I'm not going to, not tell you what they're going to do for him, he's not worth to vote for. He just wanted to get there because of power. And also the last thing I will always say, pray. God can always show you the way if nothing else. He can touch you when you have to do is say, just say, Lord, help me, and he'll help you and he'll show you. And I've seen some people that I knew, because I used to run a big precinct here in Indianapolis, one of the second largest. And people used to come there all the time, and I them over and pray, and I walk over and pray with them, and then they said, "Thank you, Councilman Simpson. I think everybody I meet on there." I said, "You feel?" He said, "Yeah. If I put it in the Lord, He's going to take care of it." So I would encourage all those: don't go in there with no fear. Go in there with God in your soul, and educate yourself. So when you walk in that room for the first time, or you've been in there many times, walk in, because they got a lot of tricks on in these counties. So a lot of counties, especially where the blacks are. They want, all, but they can't do anything to you as long as you have an ID, a proper valid ID, and all that. But if someone give you any trouble at all, you ask for the precinct committee person, because they are the ones who you can file a complaint with, and call downtown and let them know if you didn't get the vote, and let them know so they can come back out there. Don't walk out of there and say, well, I'm not going to vote. No, you file a complaint and you call downtown and tell them you had a complaint, because it's getting rough again. I mean, Trumpism is just as strong and rotten to the core that it ever could be in life, So that's important right now, is to understand, get your voter card, who your person that you're voting for. On there and say, why am I voting for this person? But district, and you get that card, it'll show you everybody you eligible to vote for, and find out about them. So when you go in there to vote, you know exactly who you're voting for.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Simpson. Christiana.
So I think one of the main things, as we had said before, is just researching, because that does wonders. And like you said before, there's so many opportunities nowadays, especially to research these people in multiple different capacities. And like I said before, how our votes are our voices. And the main thing they want to do is silence our voices. So what better way to, express our voices through voting properly? And just looking if the candidates that you're looking at, if they match up with the morals that the Bible portrays, because if you line up who's patient, who's kind, that already takes out a lot of people. So we have to just be careful, because politics is very corrupt, and sometimes people don't look into it enough to see that. So it's really important to do your research.
That's right.
So as a first-time voter, tell us, which race are you most excited about in Michigan? What race are you most excited about in Michigan that's taking all of your research time as it relates to voting?
Interesting question. I think I'm just interested to see what happens in general, because as I've been looking into different things, you can never fully tell which direction things are going to go. So I just think it's interesting in general.
So you're excited about the governor's race? Are you excited about the governor's race?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. Now, what makes you excited about the governor's race? I see that smile. I want to
Pastor,
pull it out.
Pastor.
What makes you excited?
I think those types of races, it's easy to polarize people's interpretations of things. And when it comes down to it, I'm just interested to see if people actually look into what they're choosing, because I think once you do, it's much more clear.
Thank you so much. Pastor Hunter.
Pastor, can I say something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Simpson.
Oh, go ahead, Pastor Hunter.
All right. Yes. So I agree with what is being said so far. I think also we got to use what's in our hand. We have our phones. We have our tablets. Also, we have computers. Just go to Google, and you're able to learn about the candidates. And also, you can go to your local government website. They have all of the issues that are on the ballot. You have all of the various candidates and what they stand for. And so, I live in Barron Springs, Michigan. And also I pastor in Indiana. And so I'm just going to talk about, being in Indiana as a pastor. And then I'll share briefly some of the proposals in Michigan, if that's all right, Elder Woods. And so, I'm a part of a interfaith group called Faith in Indiana, and then also Act Indiana. And so this group, we the members, we have been educating people about the need to vote for the past several months. And what we're doing, we're sending out these mass text messages and emails. And we have people making calls and even taking the time to knock on doors. Some are going out on Saturday, Sunday, even on today. Some went out, and we are connecting, especially with people of color, Latinos, women, and our young adults. And we letting them know. We letting them know that they matter to us, and that their voice matters to our community. And so, as I'm pastoring there in Indiana, in this particular state, it is being voted that anyone can carry a gun, and they don't need a permit. And also, in a few weeks, our legislators are meeting to discuss what to do with more than $5 billion surplus. That's a $5 billion surplus this year, and we live in a state that's been 50th in teacher pay raises. Well, you can do something with that money. You can give our educators pay increase. We live in this state that I'm pastoring. We are 49th in pollution. You can use that money to take care of the climate. We are 45th in incarceration and 42nd in maternal mortality, and the 40th in public health spending. And so all they're thinking about, some of our leaders are they're thinking about just sending these small checks back to to every household. But we need more than that. We need candidates who are going to act and champion and fight for issues. I'm talking about like healthcare, fight for climate change, and fight for sensible gun laws. Who are going to fight against all of them. Fight for the helping those who are dealing with mental health issues, dealing with substance abuse. We're looking for these type of candidates, and as a pastor, I'm proud to announce that this past April, I was able to invite a sheriff, other elected officials, nurses, doctors to deal with some of these issues that are plaguing our community, especially the mental health crisis issue. And so we challenge our leaders. We brought them to our church, and we want them to know, hey, we want people to we want jail diversion. We want no handcuffs for those who are dealing with a mental crisis. We want to be able to form a crisis response team, and so that those who are being challenged or having that issue, that mental issue or substance abuse, that they're not taken to jail, but they are getting the help that they need. And then also, as I live in Michigan, I was able to study and learn about the three proposals that are on the ballot. And so for those who are in Michigan, you got to understand these proposals. You got to read it. There's a lot of information. Know what you're voting yes to, no to. And so proposal one, it will amend the state constitution to require annual public financial disclosure reports by legislators and other state officers, and limit services as a legislator for 12 years. That's proposal one. Then you have proposal two, that will help ensure every voice is heard and every vote is counted in every election, no matter what political party or candidate we support, where we live, or what we look like. So that's important. Proposal two. Then the last proposal that's on the ballot is proposal three, which will amend the state constitution to establish new individual right to reproductive freedom, including right to make all decisions about pregnancy and abortion, and allow the state to regulate abortion in some cases, and forbid prosecution of individuals exercising established right. And so I'm telling every voter out there, you can vote yes or no on any of these proposals.
All right. Zakia.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with everything that's been said as well. Something that I would add, and again, that I tell, my kids, other young adults, that I do myself as well, is to just simply pay attention, right? So in addition to educating yourself, pay attention when things are going on in our community, deals are being signed, right? Often there are politicians that are connected to those things, right? And you may not always hear about that information on the news or in the newspaper, but very often it's easy to find out who's kind of head of hand in things. And so I think that that's important to kind of have that background information when there's a new company popping up, in your town, or, something like that. So I just tell my kids, pay attention, and then find out who's behind it. And if it's supposed to benefit us, is it really going to benefit us? So, do your due diligence. So I just wanted to add that. One of the things that I want to, and I also want to add too, in the state of Illinois, our Secretary of State is not seeking reelection. So for instance, that's another instance where, we really have to educate ourselves on who's running, right, for Secretary of State, because we're very used, most of us, we're very used to going to vote and just checking the box for this particular person here in Illinois, and they're not even seeking reelection. We will not see their name on the ballot. And so, this is one of those instances where we really got to educate ourselves. One of the proposals on our ballot is the workers' rights amendment. So what that basically is the it speaks about the right for workers to join together and basically be able to discuss, their pay wage, work conditions, and those sort of things without the fear of retaliation, right? And um, I am all for it. I come from a heavy unionized family. From my father, my husband, my brother is actually a union steward. So I've been part of a union. So I think it's personally very important just for uh, people to be able to choose to have that conversation with other coworkers without uh, being in fear of being fired from their jobs. They should be able to have that right to gather and at work if that's where they need to do it. So that's what I think about that.
Thank you. Hester.
Thank you again. Uh, this election is really more than politics as usual. There are so many things on the ballot. Christiana, I love your spirit and your energy. And please know that first time voters, young people who vote in the very first opportunity they get typically become voters for life. If you miss that first or second opportunity, it's people like the rest of us who spend the rest of our life chasing people like you. So I am so encouraged when I hear the spirit of young people like you describing why it is important to get to the polls. You should also know that I had the unique opportunity to serve as Assistant Secretary of State here in Michigan for the last 3.5 years. I just switched over to the campaign side alongside Jocelyn Benson. We created the Michigan Voter Information Center. That's a website. You can go to the Secretary of State's website, or you can Google Michigan Voter Information Center, and every issue you want to know about is on that ballot. Your exact ballot will come up. That is a very, very important piece of information. I would also encourage people to get to know your clerks. That clerk in your particular community becomes a critical piece of this entire puzzle. Churches, the one institution Black folk absolutely own and control is the church. And you don't have power if you don't use it. I don't understand how pastors can be quiet or passive in moments like this. That's why I love your spirit, Pastor Hunter and Joseph. I love all you guys, but I love preachers have an awesome responsibility in moments like this. And I think all that is good and possible in our community is because of the strength of the Black church in particular. But I would encourage all of us to partner with community organizations. Our Elder Woods introduced me as NAACP, which is something I've done most of my life. I served as executive director here in Detroit for about 12 years. I still chair the political education committee. And I really don't care what people think about the NAACP. Typically, if they don't have a good feeling, they just don't know what they don't know. The number one most widely recognized brand in the world of business is a toss-up between Coca-Cola and McDonald's. But in the world of civil rights and social justice, it is the NAACP. It's a multi-billion-dollar impact. The NAACP here in Michigan has been able to beat the State Chamber of Commerce. We can beat the mayor. We can beat the local chamber. If you don't get our approval, we can beat you. Just because we assigned our brand. Pastor Hunter, thank you for highlighting the 3 proposals. We at the NAACP, we don't tell you which candidates to vote for, but we will tell you how to vote on proposals. And Pastor Hunter, you did a great job of describing proposals 1, 2, and 3. We're a yes vote on all 3 of them here in Michigan. And we encourage you to take advantage of Michigan's new voting rights. No excuse absentee voting is a game changer. No excuse absentee voting is a game changer. Why? Because now we can start counting our votes 45 days before Election Day. The election is already going on right now. And the reason we get more people to the poll since 2018 is because of no excuse absentee voting. Start driving your people to the polls right now. That's what we did. That's why we increased voter turnout in 2020. That's why we're living this backlash. Conservatives and mean-spirited people came to Detroit in November of 2020. They came to our election center to intimidate our voters. Livonia made more mistakes than Detroit did. Nobody went to Livonia to overlook their counting process. But same day voter registration, we had 30,000 people register and vote on election day. So even people who wait until the absolute last minute, you can still drive them to the poll on election day. And then I think, we've got automatic voter registration, which means every time you have a transaction with the Secretary of State, if you go in to renew your driver's license, we're going to automatically register you to vote unless you say no. So lots of reasons to get in the game. And Zakia, I heard what you said. Just be reminded, the business of America is business. The business of America really is business. And that's why so many folks fight so hard to keep us out of it. So every time there's a deal, every time there's a political deal, there's a business leader somewhere in that deal. And business leaders will change the rules if the politics don't work for them. So we've got so much at stake. But Christiana, every time I hear you, every time I feel your spirit, my faith in tomorrow is renewed.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. That's awesome. Once again, the fighter himself, Hester Wheeler from the Detroit. All right. Okay, so we talked about how you look at candidates. We talked about, go ahead.
I think, go ahead, Elder Simpson, were you saying something? You're frozen on my screen.
Are you back with us, Brother Simpson?
He's frozen here.
All right. We'll let him cut in. When
I want to talk about early voting.
Okay.
For people out there in those states, early voting is a plus for us because then you don't have to go through all those long lines. So if you understand early voting, please do so. The second thing is, Christianity, although local vote is first. The mayor, the city council, those are the people who can do things for you. They're the closest one to you. That you won't pay your taxes, you do everything. Those are the ones that you have to count on first. The state people, they're so far away from you, they'll pay attention to you. But if you got a city county council race, you got a mayor, or you got judges, you got all that stuff. Because right here in Indiana, they done took the judges off now. They're being appointed because we wreak havoc on them and not voting for them. And so all of a sudden, the governor and everybody done took them off. Now they're gonna start appointing them because they know blacks, look these judges up. You know who they are, and it ain't a good thing from them. So I would say early voting. You call and see if early voting. I know it is, but get out there as early as you can. Tell your friends and tell them how to early vote because that is a plus. They keep you from having to go in there and you can get it done. It is so convenient that it is something that I always tell everybody, to go early vote.
And let me just put additional emphasis on that. I talked about early voting, no excuse absentee voting. It actually started 45 days. Today we're exactly 4 weeks from election day. Early voting, no excuse absentee voting in Michigan starts 45 days. So we've been voting for 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks. That's what turned the tables on our behalf. And let me be very succinct. White folk don't always say this. African-American voters saved this American democracy. It was the African-American voters. And guess what? On election night, you guys remember 2 years ago, they went to Georgia, they had to wait for Atlanta to be counted. They went to Pennsylvania, they had to wait for Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. They went to Ohio, they had to wait for Cleveland and Cincinnati. They went to Wisconsin, they had to wait for Milwaukee. They came to Michigan, and who did they have to wait for? They waited for Detroit.
Detroit.
I am saying Detroit delivered 2 154,000 votes. Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris won Michigan by 150,000 votes. It was the African-American voter that saved this American democracy. I am saying if you look at every battleground state that have large African-American populations, it was the African-American vote that made the difference. That's why you see such a backlash. That's why you see this debate about voter suppression. That's why Black people don't know what they don't know when they won't participate. You don't have power if you don't use it. Start voting now. Start driving people to the process right now. Take advantage of early voting. And in Michigan, that's called no excuse absentee voting. Thank you for that, Brother Simpson, for highlighting.
All right, we got a question from Floyd Mathis. How can we get involved in the process? For example, how does one become a poll worker?
Clerks will love you. Call your clerk. They will love you. Congressional district chairpersons, they will love you. The NAACP, the ACLU, most every church that has a Get Out the Vote initiative, they're all looking for personalities like you. I think his name was Floyd. They look for people like you to become a poll worker. Most communities will pay you. I think in Detroit, you might make $200 a day, but it's a full day now. You start before 7 in the morning and you go until after 8 in the evening. And then some places will split it up. That's my best recommendation. Start with your clerk's office or work with some of your churches or local community organizations to get involved with that process. Somebody else might add more.
The clerk is one. The clerk is one who's in charge of the election for the poll workers. They certify everything, and I would encourage just what he said. Call the clerk's office and say you want to volunteer. He said it ain't easy. It's a lot. You're standing around, you're helping a lot of people, but it's a blessing when you're there. I used to really enjoy it. People,
Me too.
only time I worked with some seniors in my because they come out to vote. And I said, well, absentee. She said, no, I won't come and vote. And all I'm saying is early voting, call the clerk's office. And like I say, again, if you run into trouble, look on the Secretary of State office and find out what that number is and keep it with you so you can call and tell people to call it and file a complaint. You know what I mean? Because they got trickery going on, especially in Detroit. I think y'all in Detroit, though. Y'all broke that record, and I was proud of you.
I'll add also, I think pastors should encourage their members to work at the polls.
Yes, sir.
Great. It'll be great.
Yes, sir.
All right. As we open it up to our audience, we are putting on the ticker. About where to call if you have problems, where to call about voting information. We have it. Once again, we have it covering the states in Lake Region Conference for Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. We have the information going at the bottom of the ticker. And if there's someone who has some questions, we are still open for questions because, once again, this is a voter education program. One of the things I'd like to share with you is the League of Women Voters is a great organization, outstanding organization as it relates to democracy. And if you ever want to know who to vote for, get their voter's guide. It's a nonpartisan grassroots, but they give you excellent information regardless of where you live about what's happening. So once again, I want to encourage you. The League of Women Voters is a solid, nonpartisan resource to understand and learn more about candidates. So once again, go to their website in your local area and learn more about the League of Women Voters, and that will be able to help you as you make decisions. You want to be an informed and educated voter and have those resources at your fingertips. Our distinguished guests have given us a lot, I repeat, a lot of information, different perspectives, and they have done a phenomenal job. But all things must come, unfortunately, to an end. All good things, unfortunately, must come to an end. And we want to leave with some parting wisdom. Some parting wisdom as we are 4 weeks, I repeat, 4 weeks away from the election, 4 weeks away from the election. We want to give you some parting things to consider parting things to consider so that you can be part of the process, or I should say the solution that will enhance your community. So I'm excited. And Pastor Hunter, we'll start with you.
Yes. Once again, thank you for having this discussion. And I'll just say I'm going to speak to pastors. It's important for those who are listening, who are ministers of the gospel, that you are called to be an agent of change, and you can encourage your members to be agents of change. And the way you are able to do that, whether on a Saturday or on a Sunday, hey, preach the gospel, yeah, preach messages on justice and righteousness. It's important that you educate, teach about the issues that will impact your members and those in the community. Talk about the voting issues, the laws. Also, we heard it. Yeah, register your members to vote. You can have that even at your church after service. Register people if you're doing community events. Have a desk where people can register to vote. Also, hey, there's power in prayer. It's important that you can gather your prayer warriors and pray for free, fair, and safe elections. It's important that use social media. Social media is so important in talking about the young people. That's where they are. TikTok, Instagram. I mean, Christiana can do a TikTok and say to her friends, "Get out to vote." And then you can just plan, be an organizer. I mean, bring your volunteers. Talking about those who are elderly, like transport them to the polls, because that's important, because we want people to know every vote matters, every vote counts.
Thank you so much, Pastor Hunter. Zakia.
Yeah, so I'll echo that. Young adults, young people, make sure you're getting your aunties and your grandmas, make sure you're getting them out to the polls as well. Make sure everybody has a mode of transportation to be able to get out there and vote. And I just want to encourage, the young adult population is a very diverse population, and you guys have so much power. I think, everybody here has just mentioned how powerful you are. So we just want to encourage, your generation, Christiana, to get out there and do your thing.
Thank you so much. Hester Wheeler.
Yes, both my parents were from Mississippi, and my dad used to describe, after coming home from 2 years in the military, that many of his family members and friends wanted to vote. They would have to vote at this country store, and white folk with shotgun racks would line that country road to intimidate blacks who would dare cross that line. And I remember listening to those stories when I was growing up, and I made a commitment when I was 8 and 10 and 12 that if I ever had the opportunity to do something about that, it would become a part of my life work. That's why my commitment to civil rights and social justice is unparalleled. I told you that this is not politics as usual. Racism is on the ballot. Police reform is on the ballot. Affordable housing is on the ballot. It's not just about one or two individuals. All those issues are on the ballot. And I do agree, Pastor Hunter, prayer and politics is our best power.
So true.
Christiana.
My closing remarks are: do your research, educate yourself and other people around you to do the same. Use your influence for good in your circles. Evaluate your views and the views of the candidates that you're looking at. And your vote equals your voice, and your voice matters.
Go ahead on, Sister
Christiana, your voice matters. I like that.
Beautiful.
I thought you were about to start to rhyme. I was waiting for you to break off. I love it. Thank you so much. Brother Simpson.
Yeah. Well, let me say that. Yeah, let me say this. Just like Mr. Wheeler, when I was at Pine Forge, we had a concert choir that used to travel. And we came out of Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina. We was raggedy and break down at any time, but God got us through there. We was on our way to North Carolina. And we stopped at this gas station. And I'm about 16 years old. And we got off the bus, and the vice principal, Mr. said, everybody get back on the bus. And we said, why? He said, we're not welcome here. And we couldn't buy anything. And then white folks only drink here. White folks only allowed here. And I kept saying to myself, why is American like this? And I began to realize through life, like my parents, Mr. Wheeler's parents, they used to say that, when you go through those southern states, and they're still kind of dangerous these days. But the thing is, voting, my daddy said, the only way you're going to change it, son, vote. Make changes in wherever you're from and how you come. Local counts more than state, because they are the ones who can do something for you. Like you said, Pastor, the local people, the local sheriff or the lawyer or the governor or the mayor, and all the prosecutor, all of them. Those are the folks that can do something for you. Those are the people that you want to look them up and understand what they're doing, and your council person. And so I would encourage everybody, be blessed. And I thank the panel, all the members that was here with me. And Elder Woods, I always appreciate you, brother, and hope when you come here in Annapolis to preach. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank our all-star panel. Look at them dropping knowledge ahead of the election, which is 4 weeks away. I repeat, 4 weeks away. And all of us need to vote. We need to vote because our community depends on it. Our children depends on it. Our forefathers depend on it. And if we want to make a difference in our community and address the violence that might be taking place, address the education challenges, you've got to vote, not just for the governor, not just for the Senate race or the House of Representatives, but your state Senate, your state house, your county, your local, your ballots, your millage. Voting is on the ballot and it impacts you. And like we always say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Be a part of the process. Be engaged in the process. And in the words, Brother Wheeler, of the Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony, take your souls to the polls and don't take just yourself, but bring somebody else. God bless you. And we look forward to seeing you in the polls once again on November 8th. On November 8th, make your voice count. And like Christiana said, when you make your voice count, you raise your vote, you raise your voice at the polls. When you make your voice count, you go to the polls and vote, and that's how you raise your voice. Make your vote count and be that difference in your community. Once again, thanks so much again to Christiana Michelle. Thanks so much again to Zakia Jarrett. Thank you so much again to the OG Joe Simpson. Thank you so much again to the veteran fighter, fire, and now freedom fighter, Hester Wheeler. And once again, thanks to the 2022 Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Pastor of the Year, Claval Hunter, the lead pastor of the Berean Seventh-day Adventist Church and Voice of Hope in Michigan City, and also our Urban Ministries Director for the Lake Region Conference. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you on another edition of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Today, where we will address and not run from any and all issues impacting people of faith. God bless you, and good night.
Bless you. Nice job, Elder Woods. Keep hope alive.
Bless you.
Good night, everybody.